Charlie Le Mindu. We're in Bordeaux in my new exhibition called Sculpture Capillaire. I just finished an exhibition in Palais de Tokyo, so for me it was very intense to come and set up this one. There is about 50 sculptures just made of human hair. I started in the Médoc, the wine region in France. I started in like a grandmother hair salon, very old ladies, perms and rinses. I moved to Bordeaux where I met one of my best friends called Carolina Bambina, and she has a band called Ca Bambino. And she introduced me to the world of electronic music, punk music, and I guess techno as well. She told me, oh, maybe you should go to Berlin, have fun, and just see what you can do there. So I just listened to her, and then when I was around 16, 17, I moved to Berlin. When I arrived in Berlin, I couldn't speak English, neither German, so I started to work in French restaurants, and I was doing haircuts in the restaurants and in French bars. So after I was doing every night a different club, so from 11 at night till 5 in the morning I was doing haircuts. You have a different way to parties in every city, you know? That influenced my work a lot. And I think Berlin, I was listening more to techno, and I was just going out in squats. I stayed with a friend in East London. She's the one who introduced me to the fashion industry. In London, I was going more with the club kids, you know, this is when the new rave was still on. And it was neon kids, and that would really inspire me. I started everything in London. All my real work, my first collection and everything. My first fashion show during London Fashion Week. And then I did about 8 collections. That's when I started to work with Lady Gaga, Lana Del Rey, Florence and the Machine. It's the opposite of Berlin, London, you know? Because they love pop music and it's all mixed. That Berlin is a bit darker, I would say. I had lots of fun, and then it was great for 8 years. Then I got bored at some point of London. And then when I moved to Paris 3 years ago, it was more about the art industry. And I felt like I wanted performers and dancers to wear my outfits, and because I think hair needs movement. Could use metal or latex. But because I'm a hairdresser, I just try to do different techniques. But I try to go the farthest possible to make it look like a wig, or I like to see that there is a lot of work and not just one day of work. It takes maybe 2 or 3 weeks to make a wig, and I think you couldn't do that in a salon. Or maybe they do it on a show, but then it's like very hairdressing show, and they're gonna call it like those avant-garde, because it's really not my thing. I think I work more like a fashion designer, for example, than a hairdresser, because I draw first, then I choose the quality of the hair, and then I choose the color. One of the collections which is in this exhibition is called Stronger. I wanted to take people really deep down the sea. Down the sea, all the fish and everything, the bacteria and everything is very neon, so they can see. So I worked for 6 months at the black lights in my studio to create the perfect color, because I don't always use hairdressing colors, products from a pharmacy or doctors, you know, or things like this. For all the hair, I have a sponsor called Hair Dreams. It's a good collaboration because I can really ask them to create a specific color for me that I couldn't get in a salon. For example, for this one, for the gold Saba, they mixed Russian hair with gold thread, like real gold. I mean, that's something I couldn't do myself, you know. There is another collection called Paris et Gris where they mix old people's hair with silver thread.
Ses sources d'inspiration sont multiples. Esthétique punk, mythologie antique, bestiaire fantastique, créatures de fond marin.
The name coiffuriste was created by Philippe Découfflet, which is a choreographer in France, and he gave me that name because he didn't know how to call me. And I think coiffuriste for him, it was an artist which works with the medium of hair, and they just do whatever they want. But I think it's kind of the same concept as haute coiffure, but it doesn't have to be on the head, you know? I think as long as it's made of hair. At the moment I'm working on a table just made of hair, And I think it's the same, it's coiffuriste, you know, I'm a hairdresser for tables, you know, so I work more like a plastician. The dancers I work with, they come from different places. I don't work with so many girls, I like 9 girls, I always have the same one. So I don't care about having sexy girls and sexy bodies, I care about the confidence that you can see when they're on stage. You know, there is filmmakers that I love, like Parajanov, Almodovar. I never open a hair magazine, I never open a fashion magazine either, because I can be scared to be inspired actually. If I see something I like, I might want to redo, maybe. But because I don't work as a hairdresser, maybe it's not a problem yet. My dream is still doing a wig for the Eiffel Tower, yes. I think it's possible, I just need a lot of hair. All the hair in the world, you know. This was from the Queen of Saba. She was like a strong woman. I think she had lots of husbands and she was just scaring men, so I just tried to create women who scares men. All the inspiration is from tribes, and they were doing haircuts like hairstyles with horns as well, and clay. The Afro industry, you know, the nails and the wigs that they wear all the time, I think it's a huge inspiration, you know. When I was in London, I used to live in Dalston. That was a huge inspiration to me. As I say, strong women, so maybe they can hurt people, and I mean, those wigs are quite dangerous because I kind of cut myself a few times, even if you just... But I like, you know, to work on details, like all the chains and the little braids here all the time, you know. This is called Paris est gris. It was a word play, so it means Paris is grey, but Paris hates grey. Because when I moved to Paris, the only color I could see was grey. Because I saw the Périph', the Eiffel Tower is grey, the weather was grey when I moved there. Those ones are inspired by the financial district in Paris called La Défense. And Défense is also horns, but basically what's important in this is when you see the shadow. Because when you see the shadow, it really reminds buildings which are in this area, basically. This is called l'Étoile. L'Étoile is the roundabout which is on Arc de Triomphe. So I make little petals where I sew everything on fabric all the time. Creature of the sea, I see which were my favorite fishes first, and I try to translate their shape and everything into airwork, I will say. There is a fish called, I don't know in English, but in French we call it combattant. So that was the inspiration, but then after I exaggerated the color. We have 2 different collections. One which was my 3rd collection from this one, which was called Bullshit Religion Lucifer. It was about religions basically, and then Metal Queen, and it was again about strong women. This hat was worn by Andre J, which is one of my muse as well. This one was from, that was a technique I wanted to use, and it was how to recreate the effect of fabric with hair. Very long to do this technique actually. This one, I wanted to have the imagination of having a floating wig, creating a skull cap, you know, in leather, made of Japanese cow. This I just created a monster wig. I just wanted to have my version of a burqa maybe. There is a lot of political things in my work, but I don't care about politics and religion. It's really not my inspiration. I'm just far from that world. I can be inspired by the looks of certain tribes, I would say, and religions. I love the Jewish hat, you know, I love all those things. I think it's beautiful. What was great about Palais Tokyo is that I created a club in an art contemporary museum. It was really me, you know, like just music and having fun. Anyway, it could be dirty sometimes and stuff, and there is almost no limit. That's why it's great to do it in a museum. I love nudity, and I think everyone in the world should be naked. Wearing clothes is a way of showing how much money we have, what culture we have, and all that. And yeah, in the ideal world, if everyone will be naked, and we'll all be the same. I was speaking with Alana and then I wanted to create something surreal and make her like an animal. She said to me, humans are like chicken because you don't know who came first, if it's a man or a woman, you know? I said, okay, great, I'm just gonna make you a transsexual chicken. She's the first transsexual chicken in the world. I really love what she does, Alana Star. And she's one of my muse as well, you know, as much as the other girls from the Crazy.
Bien, j'aimerais vous dire tout simplement que vous êtes un artiste. Je le crois profondément parce que, comme l'avait si bien dit André Malraux, le monde de l'art n'est pas celui de l'immortalité, c'est celui de la métamorphose.